So this week I watched a TED Talk on YouTube. So this was from TEDx Portland. And the topic was, what if the thing you're most afraid of is actually the key to your greatest achievement? So in it, Mike Bennett talked about how, as an unemployed artist in Portland, Oregon, he created a public art project that captured the imagination of the city during the pandemic. And then he created art pop-ups in increasingly large retail spaces, and then an immersive themed cafe with a mini golf course, and then an indoor cartoon aquarium. This is awesome. So Mike overcame fears of failure, of big ambitious projects, of power tools to create some cool immersive places that are now getting national attention. So I want to know, what's this cafe all about? What the heck is a cartoon aquarium? And are these the kind of things that might make sense in other cities? So we're going to talk about it. My guests today are Teddy Albertson, co-founder of Wonderwood Springs and Indoor Mini Golf, and Mike Bennett, founder of Wonderwood Springs, the Portland Aquarium, and Mike Bennett Studios. You're listening to Where We Buy. It's the show where we talk with retail experts and we visit the places where we buy. My name is James Cook. I research retail and real estate for JLL. Welcome, Mike and Teddy, to Where We Buy.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yes, this is so great. This is what's fun for me is this is you guys are all about immersion. Like immersing people in new worlds and having fun. And Mike, don't you call yourself like the chief joy something or other? What do you say?
I'm a public joy creator.
A public joy creator. I love it. So I'm trying to think of the best way to get this started. Let's talk about Wonderwood first to give people an idea of it. Yeah. Either one of you who's ever wants to say, like, what's a visit to Wonderwood like?
Growing up, I always wanted to step into a cartoon, and creating Wonderwood was an opportunity to make that. So Wonderwood takes place in a fantasy world of my own creation, filled with illustration and world building like I've never seen when something is made out of plywood and paint. You get to either go into a miniature golf course and capture 26 different monsters and make sure that they get what they need to be taken care of in their environment, or you get to play around a mini golf with your family, or go into a cafe and hear a story from a bard, or meet a rat king. Any number of items on our menu are themed to the space, and you get to immerse yourself in that world. And it's really important that you get to make the art you want to make as a guest, tell the stories you want to tell, be the person you want to be. It's a place of inclusion and a place that is welcome to all.
So this is a very ambitious way to describe like an all-day cafe, right? Yep. Was the cafe there before you guys kind of turned it into Wonderwood?
Yeah, so that's actually how Mike and I first met. I had a cafe with some other partners there before, and we were in St. John's, which is a little bit off the beaten path in North Portland, and we were doing okay, but not great. And then Mike actually opened up a cryptid zoo across the street, or not across the street, but in the adjacent bank building, which is now where we house Wonderwood Mini Golf. And I saw what he was doing. He had a line out the door. I think he was open for about 30 days and had 30,000 people come through that. So I saw what Mike was doing, the storytelling that he was providing, and kind of like the community atmosphere. And we had the same landlord. So I reached out to my landlord, connected me with Mike. Our first meeting was in his cartoon dinosaur museum called Dinolandia in an old Banana Republic downtown, and kind of threw out the idea of, hey, what if I took out all of the kind of FF&E that's currently in the space, all the design elements, and allowed him to reskin the bones of a cafe to kind of put his narrative on it. And we kind of jumped in head first, and that was kind of how our partnership initially started at that point, and brought Wonderwood to life.
Is it fair to say it's kind of a medieval theming?
Oh, yeah. Very fantasy forward.
Unicorns, three-headed dragons, the key characters.
And this is all stuff out of your head, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Wonderwood is actually the first place that I ever built that wasn't based in education. It was based in the fictional world, which is really important for kids and adults to see how imagination can push an idea forward.
I talk to a lot of different folks, and sometimes they'll have a whole story, like they'll go and develop a whole narrative that informs how they design a space. Is that something you did, or is it just more sort of off the cuff?
You know, it's funny, when the opportunity came, I think I was like, I want to do a 24/7 Halloween immersive space. And very quickly I was like, this isn't going to work out. And the other thing that I've always loved my whole life is this fantasy Renaissance fair, Dungeons and Dragons type space. So it was a lot of designing on paper and iPad first, and then executing in person.
So how would you describe like what it looks and feels like?
I mean, it is like stepping into your favorite 90s cartoon. There's art, specifically the miniature golf. It is painted from floor to ceiling. There's really nothing that has been untouched by a paintbrush. There's nothing that's been untouched by me, which is really special as an artist, but it fully takes you in. There's a fully customized original soundtrack. There is just characters everywhere you can see, and the cafe is kind of a mix of the two. We have cartoons, and then we have real treasure chests and tables with dragon legs, and it's really like kind of taking that Disneyfication of it all and making it cartoons meet the Jungle Cruise almost.
So you said you have your own soundtrack.
We do.
Wow. So how do you? I know this is a side question, but like, how does one get one's own? Do you commission artists or musicians?
What's beautiful is it's not the only one we've done. My good friend Billy Kelly, who's actually a stand-up comedian that I loved watching when I lived in Pennsylvania, had dreams of doing a score. So I hired him to do the soundtrack to my dinosaur museum, and people love it. And then we decided to do a little bit of a darker one for the first story that we told at Wonderwood, which was a little bit more of a spooky, evil wizard vibe. And we use it to this day, and people really love it. The Portland Aquarium, Teddy, maybe you could speak to that. We have another composition as well there, which is very unique.
Yeah, the composition for the Portland Aquarium we did with my good friend Andre, who is a DJ that lives locally, and his stage name or DJ name is Rack, R-A-C. And he created kind of unique soundscapes in each of the spaces, where each space has like a definitive kind of feel and tone, but at the same time they bleed together in a unique way. So it all kind of makes sense as you're navigating under the water inside of the 6 different biomes that we built out with the Portland Aquarium. So
we both teared
great.
up when we heard it the first time. We teared up. It was very special and continues to be.
Wonderwood, all-day cafe, medieval themed. Are there actors? Like, aren't there actors playing characters that are walking throughout?
We have a friend of mine who is a professional clown named Emily June Newton. She has performed multiple characters in this space. We have the Rat King, who was our original one, who used to require people to pay a toll with trash every time they passed through her space, which we've collected, and it's a wild collection. And we've had the Wizard, and we've had a talking bush, and now we have kind of what's become the most beloved character of Wonderwood, the Bard, who hosts bingo every Tuesday night, and we fill the place, and it's a wild party. It's definitely geared towards families, but leans towards adults. But every Saturday, the Bard does a story time with the bookstore across the street in our outdoor kind of play space, and it's really special and heartwarming, and it's a magical thing. So who knows what characters will show up next.
So are you activating this? Do you have like different events every night?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say 5 nights out of the week we have different events, and then throughout the weekend as well. Both kind of adult focused when it comes to trivia, but then kid story time, kid concerts. During the summertime, we do kind of monthly fairs, makers fairs, where we have 40 different vendors kind of outside of the space programming the entire property. Because right now the cafe sits as a retail building, and then we have an outdoor alley space that's totally built out. And then the mini golf is a standalone building that used to be at Bank of America. So it's kind of a little bit of our own little fantasy campus out in St. John's, which has been great. And then other things that we do to kind of bring that level of programming is within the cafe, there's a scavenger hunt. There's several different scavenger hunts where you can find all the different bugs and different characters that Mike had built. And then in addition, we have 26 different coloring sheets That's tied to the newest narrative that we just did with the mini golf, where Mike did a full monster alphabet of his own making, where there's a monster for each letter of the alphabet that you can kind of find throughout the mini golf space. But we have that in a coloring sheet form in the cafe. And then we have board games, books, a lot of kind of fun, kid-friendly focused activities that people can kind of do throughout their kind of stay when they're playing both mini golf, but then also visiting the cafe.
So it's family friendly, but you wouldn't say it's like a kid's own, like a 4-kid space. Like, how do you kind of think about that?
I think that's the most special thing about Wonderwood and any of the spaces we make is I grew up in the 90s. I loved the way that cartoons were illustrated then, and that's really driven how I make things. And that era of cartoons speaks to everyone. We all have a memory, whether it's a commercial or a TV show we loved. And with Wonderwood specifically, we really see a wide range of people who come. We see adults coming. We've had parents get a babysitter so they can go out and have an evening at Wonderwood, which I think is incredibly special and something that you could try your entire life to do. And we're just so thankful that it appeals to everyone, and that's a pretty special thing.
Yeah, that's a real big trick that a lot of, in our industry, we call them family entertainment centers. Yeah. And there's not a ton that you're going to go to without the kids, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Disney is one that pulled it off somehow, but, you guys are rare,
Yeah.
We're
I would
really
say that, that's kind of a little bit of a call out to Mike's art style, where his art style is very much, derpy or 90s-esque, where I think, unlike Paw Patrol, that's very kind of cuddly and cute, it allows the demographic to be a little bit wider in terms of who can engage with his artwork. I would say some of Mike's biggest and most avid fans are like 40 plus in terms of their age and demographic. But at the same time, I think it's something that both adults and kids can kind of really rally behind and connect with because they're both kind of intrigued and have that connection point to Mike's art style, which I think is like it's a unique thing that we've tried to be really diligent about in terms of like making sure that the spaces are welcoming to all ages and that there's a little bit for everybody.
Accessibility and not alienating anyone has been a driving force for the both of us. So I would try to keep our spaces at the most affordable we can. We are always giving out free passes for people to attend. This May, we're actually welcoming our 1,000th artist to set up a booth at our markets. So that's a very exciting chapter for us. Is most of those people didn't have to pay a booth fee as well. This is our first year we're starting to. We needed to get some more bathrooms because the events are getting more popular. But we're really, really proud of how welcoming these spaces are, and I think that is a little contagious. I think people really can feel it when they visit.
And so the mini golf, right? You said it's a former Bank of America, which I love. That's great. Had you ever designed a mini golf course before?
No, not at all.
How was that difficult?
Again, just like these cartoons, I think we all got to grow up with mini golf. And mini golf was like a great place for us to get dressed. So we have these amazing memories of mini golf, but building a mini golf course in a space like a bank is a challenge. And we had to get really creative. And it's also ADA accessible, which we're really proud of. So it follows all the Oregon rules for ADA. So a wheelchair could go up a ramp, turn around, and come back down without any challenges. I think we made something really fun. I know we did. So
I read in one of the interviews you guys did recently so you've got an electronic waiting list for the mini golf.
Yep.
And so that allows people to kind of hang out in the neighborhood while they're waiting to play.
Yeah. When we first opened, and I think, still now can be up to like a 2 to 3 hour wait. So people are able to check into mini golf. And again, that's kind of what we've really tried to focus on at the cafe in terms of like those programming opportunities with the scavenger hunts, the coloring sheets, the different events that we have going on. So people really can kind of fill up those 2 hours as they're waiting for mini golf. But at the same time, because it's a digital wait list, people are able to go to different stores within the St. John's neighborhood. There's a bookstore across the street and a bunch of small mom and pop shops. So people have really been able to kind of adventure throughout the entire neighborhood. And we've had a tremendous response from all the different retailers and merchandisers across the street and in the St. John's neighborhood, just kind of talking about the increased foot traffic and people exploring increasing dwell times in different neighborhoods as they wait to play mini golf.
I hear that from like a property owner's point of view. that would be an awesome tenant to have, right?
Yeah.
Because people are like waiting around, walking around. Do you have visions of expanding to new locations?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of upside to like creating a true third space. You know, a lot of my background's in restaurants and hospitality, and I know once you start getting into food and beverage, it's a whole new can of worms. So, you know, the Portland Aquarium itself, that's purely a third space, and I say that we complement food and beverage and retail because it's something that people can kind of add on to their lunch or their dinner outing, where they can then come and experience a fully immersive cartoon aquarium, a zoo, whatever it might be. So we see upsides in both. I think we're mainly looking for, you know, the right real estate partner that we could partner with. You know, if that's a licensing management type agreement, we're kind of exploring all different options right now, but we definitely see a lot of opportunity to creating spaces within shopping centers, lifestyle centers that are centered around community and education, and really do complement food and beverage and other retailers by giving people something, an activity-based thing to do when they are on a property.
That's awesome. And the menu, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but the menu, it's kind of like a pub style menu. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say it's approachable, both in terms of like the food offerings and then the price points as well. It is an all day concept, which I know that's challenging. It's hard to find a space that feels good for a coffee and a breakfast burrito at 10 a.m., but it also works for a burger and a beer at 7 p.m. And yeah, the Wonderwood, because you're in this space that's immersed with storytelling and art, I think compared to a lot of other concepts, it's truly unique in that way where it does make sense at multiple meal periods. It doesn't feel like we're trying to be a breakfast place that stretches into another meal period. So that's been another really kind of eye-opening and a unique element to, I think, what we're trying to build.
And the passion of our chef is so important too. I mean, we're working with someone incredible who is making food that's great, as opposed to, you know, just the classic dry cheeseburger and chicken tenders. So that's really important that quality comes in all directions at Wonderwood.
Now I'm trying to think about, you know, Portland is so unique.
Yeah.
Is there a worry that a concept like Wonderwood, you know, other cities are kind of different? Like maybe it doesn't work as well in other cities. Have you thought about where it might make sense?
Yeah. You know, Mike is, as much as he is beloved in Portland, through his installations like A to Zoo, was able to gain like over 1 million followers on TikTok and has over 2 million followers on his different social channels. We were actually just looking at our e-commerce sales. We have sales to all 50 states. And then in terms of cities, we have sales to just about 2,000 different unique cities across the United States. So Mike's art definitely resonates, you know, outside of the Portland market. But I think you can see a lot of the trends in terms of like what people are looking for, concepts that are like being talked about within the real estate space. It really does come down to like experience and creating something that is one of one. You know, I say people will come to Wonderwood and they'll wait in line for 20 to 30 minutes because it's not just, oh, we'll go down the street and get a coffee there just to replace the need for coffee. It truly is like a unique experience and what that can provide. And again, that community element of really what we try to focus on, the accessibility, the storytelling, the uniqueness, is something that I think will resonate in other markets. Another thing that we're excited to further explore, and that's kind of why we opened the Portland Aquarium, was Portland never had an aquarium. And Mike and I, we went to travelportland.com. Number one FAQ was, does Portland have an aquarium? And the answer was no. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy that's the number one question. And the answer is no. So, you know, we kind of took those insights, and that's what was the reason why we brought the Portland Aquarium to life. But we see an opportunity to kind of focus on potentially tier 2, tier 3 markets that will never have a zoo, will never have an aquarium, in our ability to kind of provide that type of an experience and educational moments for kids and families and adults in those types of markets. So yeah, it's something that I think will resonate in different locations. We just need to kind of stay true to our North Star in community building.
So let's talk more about Portland Aquarium.
Yeah.
First of all, it is a cartoon aquarium, which you can explain. What's it like to visit Portland Aquarium?
Yeah, so the Portland Aquarium does not have any live animals, but that doesn't mean we don't have education and focus on those live animals. You enter into kind of a submarine base to head off on your journey. You discover that there is a submarine captain who has been lost at the bottom of the ocean. He sends you a transmission. It's your job to go help him and find him, but along the way, you have to catalog all the animals you see. So we created a book with Chanel Hayson, who's an amazing marine biologist with a focus on sea otters and bringing them back, an extinct species in Oregon, back to Oregon. You get a book that you get to bring through the space with you that becomes kind of your giant I Spy scavenger hunt game. You discover over 100 species in 6 different biomes. Again, you're enveloped by this amazing soundtrack in this space that is beautifully lit with kind of life in all directions. And it's really a special thing. It's kind of like a Disney dark ride without the ride vehicle. You get to walk through at your own pace and enjoy that space and then go through again because your admission, just like our mini golf course, gets you admission for the entire day.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so I have to ask, how much is a ticket?
For the Portland Aquarium, it's at $14, and you get the book, and you get to keep the book as well for all-day admission.
Wow, that's great. Do people ever come not realizing it's a cartoon aquarium?
All the time.
Yeah.
We kind of have an unspoken rule where if someone comes in expecting a real aquarium and they have a tough time, we let them sneak in, and then they can decide afterwards. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, they pay for their ticket, which is a huge compliment to our team.
So the primary art is artwork that you've created on. It's kind of like on every surface, and there's like stand-ups. How would you? I'm trying to think of. I just want to paint a picture as much as possible here.
Sure, yeah. So
how would you describe it?
You think of your favorite pop-up book from when you were 6, right? And then imagine that pop-up book being all around you, and that's kind of what you're walking through. There are characters everywhere. There's lights. There's ripple effects. There's you can see the ocean above you. You can hear the seagulls as you enter the ocean. You can hear bubbles. You can see your characters hiding behind different things. And then we're also using styrofoam and fake rocks and all sorts of things. And the ground is painted as well, so it's really all-encompassing. But yeah, I think a pop-up book would be the best way to describe it.
How big is it, the aquarium?
It's about 3,000 square feet in total. We took a vacant downtown real estate space that, Portland has had its challenges downtown, and we saw this as a little bit of an opportunity to bring something positive. Mike and I have been doing a holiday pop-up shop downtown called Snow Day Village the last 3 years, and kind of building on that momentum made us open a spot downtown. And it's right down kind of next to all the hotels on Broadway. It's 3,000 square feet. We combined 2 former retail spaces. One was a coffee shop that we kind of took all that infrastructure out, and then an adjacent old cell phone store where that's the aquarium itself. But the old coffee shop right now is the kind of welcome area, and then our gift shop. And then we kind of just expanded that where we added more tables, and we have coloring sheets and puzzles and card games. So again, people can kind of extend their visit, kind of really focus on that third space where people can kind of both explore underwater, but then come above onto land and paint and color and kind of do those arts and crafts as part of their visit.
And the aquarium doesn't have food, right?
No. Yep.
Right.
Which is...
But you've got the retail space.
The retail space, the gift shop. So we make money through the gift shop itself and then admission. But at the same time, that's another thing where complementing food and beverage, people come down, I would say 80% of the people are making dedicated trips downtown to come to the aquarium. And then once they've finished, they're asking where can they go get food, where they can go get a drink, where can they get coffee. And lucky for us, Portland has tons of those options. So when we opened that space, we didn't want to compete against, the 5 other coffee shops you can throw a football to. We really wanted to kind of complement people's experience. And I think we've done a good job trying to execute on that.
And you mentioned that you sell a lot of stuff online, Like, tell me more about what kind of things you sell. I'm imagining plushies and toys, all based around your characters, Mike.
Yeah, it all kind of started a few years ago when I was doing art in front of my house. And I made this project called the A to Zoo, which was an animal alphabet that took over my front lawn in May of 2020, back when people only knew that they could go for a walk and maybe that was safe. The thick of the pandemic. And creating these creatures and creating this huge display on my front lawn led me to make a poster and then a couple stickers and then a t-shirt. And very quickly, my lawn got super, super busy, my neighborhood. And I needed to address the traffic. So I made some slow signs, some turtles and snails and sloths who hold slow signs. And those went kind of viral when they first came out, and they've continued that. So that kind of like was the launch of merchandise. But since then, we've created, Teddy, are we at 700 stickers now? Different stickers.
Yeah.
We have plushies, we have the lawn signs, we have character charms for shoes, we have card games and puzzles and posters, and all of them are loved by different people, which is really cool.
Wow. And do people mostly learn about it through visiting your spaces or through your online presence?
It's a nice balance of both. And what's cool about the way we live now is things can go viral without the internet. So there's a lot of word of mouth. You come to Portland, or you have your family come to Portland, and you're like, we got to take you to this crazy thing. And that might be the Wonderwood, that might be the Portland Aquarium, that might even be my studio. But people are really doing a great job of praising what we're doing for us, which really means so much and really, keeps pushing us on. So that's pretty cool. But, Instagram and TikTok do a lot too.
Yeah, and it sounds like you started out doing one thing and everything builds on everything else. So the things that you were doing during the pandemic in front of your house are still incorporated, right? Into
for sure.
And,
a lot of them are little Easter eggs too. I have this snail that I draw named Sonny the Snail, who is my Mickey Mouse. And he shows up everywhere. So you always notice a snail in any of these spaces, which is pretty fun. And, what's really cool is the spirit of those front lawn displays. It's back. I used to paint in my garage, and people could come across this by accident. And now I have a studio right here in the heart of Northeast Portland, across from one of the best parks in the city. And people can stumble onto it out of nowhere. And we have these giant windows. And on the weekends, we open the studio for free for anyone to come in and make whatever they want. And that's just a true, genuine third space to the level of like a library. We have a little gift shop, but we don't ask anyone to buy anything, and people tend to, and that really pushes us along. So this space has become like a really warm, amazing, warm, fuzzy space that we're so proud of.
Wow, that's amazing that you just opened that up and anybody can come and visit. How did you two meet originally?
Was to do the Wonderwood project. So again, was working with another group and had a coffee shop adjacent to what he was doing.
Right.
And, my background is more in food and beverage. I was a former CPA, worked in kind of venture capital in San Francisco, really kind of fell in love with restaurants and working with chefs, which is very much working with artists, and kind of found my niche supporting artists on the business side to allow them to do what they do best. And Mike is the most talented person I've ever met. And, kind of over the last 3 years, we've kind of gone head first in trying to build Mike Bennett Studios and everything else that we have going on. And we see that there's, we're very much just getting started. We're fully self-financed, figuring out things one day at a time. But, continuing to grow and kind of just push things forward here in Portland, and then at the same time very much excited to further expand outside of Portland in the Pacific Northwest, and kind of bring these concepts to new markets as we move forward.
And it kind of sounds to me like, talking about you're being self-financed, like I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people have like, oh yeah, we've got private equity money that's driving us or whatever. It sounds like you've done everything on a shoestring. So you know probably how to be very economical in all of your work as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, some artists can dream big, and that's why our partnership works really well. So Teddy's good at this. He's really good at making stuff happen on a budget, and I couldn't do it without him. So
would you say, you're kind of open. Like, I'm just curious, like, you have all these different characters you've designed. You've got a couple of different concepts going, different pop-ups. Like, do you think you'd expand into new kind of ticketed places, new restaurants? I don't know, maybe like a cartoon series, or is it kind of anything goes for you?
Teddy, why don't I talk about the Zooquarium and then you can talk about our plans for it?
Yeah.
So most of my art career in Portland has been rooted in animal education. Wonderwood aside, everything has really been rooted in this love for animals and science and how art and science can combine. I think those are my favorite museums to go to as a kid. Those are my favorite TV shows as a kid, my favorite books as a kid. So it's always been a driving force. My mom just retired, but she was a fifth grade science teacher for decades. And creating those animals and teaching about them with professionals has been a real driving force to what I want to do with my future career. So we've created the Zooquarium, which is a place where we can talk about animals of land, sky, or sea. And we have a podcast that's associated with that, which is really special. We get to work with experts in their fields, whether that be art around animals or science. But we have big plans for what the Zooquarium could be physically. And Teddy, maybe that's where you can take it.
Yeah, the Zooquarium, again, kind of building on the success of the Portland Aquarium. We just saw that we could expand kind of the different narratives, biomes, types of animals that we could talk about if we kind of included both land and sea. And on one of my, numerous kind of deep dives in terms of domain names and social media handles, we found that the Zooquarium was not, that was available. So we got the Zooquarium, and kind of Mike and I have been working on that for a while now in terms of bringing that to life. And again, kind of what Mike mentioned, it's really a collaboration between art and science. So animal experts, people that work at zoos, marine biologists, people that are working on a number of different animal-focused elements, and then the art side in terms of like kind of Mike's background. But we most recently had like Chuck Duke, who did all the stop motion for James and the Giant Peach, as one of the guests. So really kind of using the Zooquarium as a platform where science and art can come together to educate kids and create something that's truly unique. But yeah, on the immersive, on the experience side, we have huge goals in terms of, building out future immersive experiences under the Zooquarium name, creating something a little bit like the house in Netflix, where we would have a little bit of a central brain with dedicated footprints that we could then flip and rotate out in terms of, talk about the Amazon rainforest and big cats, but then also go into the coral reef and all the different types of jellyfish, for example, in terms of the different narratives and storytelling that we could do under that Zooquarium brand. So very much excited to continue to expand on that and see where that can go.
That's great. So how long have you been doing the podcast?
We've been doing it for a few months now. We are, I believe, on our 6th episode. We release every other week. We have bonus content on the off weeks that can kind of take more of the content we've recorded with those guests. Chuck Duke, for example, we talked about Star Wars. He worked on that as well. So we get to get a little nerdy with it. And, we've got a lot of episodes in the can and a lot of episodes to record. And we're taking questions from mostly kids. Adults are invited. But it's really amazing to see these questions come from a brain that is not in their 30s or 40s. It's really special. And we take those questions very seriously and find our guests based on that.
So, yeah, and that was my follow-up question. So the audience is really kind of kids and adults and their parents, but kind of kid-focused.
The spirit of the show was like, okay, how do we get the Zooquarium to exist before we can build it? And being able to like give families something to listen to on their drive home from school for 15 minutes was kind of the hope with this show. I think it's becoming something more than that. I'm feeling the magic a lot, and we're making these amazing connections. But that was kind of the nugget that led to the actual show. So
that's really cool. I love the name Zooquarium too. I can't believe that was just available.
Good, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So a lot of listeners of this show are owners, investors, and developers of mixed use and retail real estate. Yep. So if folks want to reach out to you, is it Mike Bennett Studios? Is that the best website for them to go to?
Yep. And there's kind of like a contact form. You can also just email hello@Mike Bennett Studios. So that's a great way to get in touch with us. And then Another thing I'd kind of like to just touch on that we've seen a lot of success with locally, and another thing that we're kind of looking to expand on, going back to the community focus and what we're trying to bring to lifestyle centers, real estate developments. But scavenger hunts is another thing that we've had a lot of success with. Mike's done that pretty much since day one when he was doing things in his front yard. We've done a lot of work locally with Center Cow, and we just did one at their Bridgeport Village property. And then we did that for about 2 weeks, and I think we had over 700 individual participants taking part in that scavenger hunt, which, I would say each time that there's a participant, there's probably 2 to 3 people engaging in that activity. So we've seen a lot of success with that. Scavenger hunts are a free activity that people can do at any time of the day, and how we can incorporate animals into that storytelling with the scavenger hunts. We've seen a lot of success with that. And another thing that Mike has gone viral with several times has been the Portland Keychain Library, which is something that has its own life and kind of narrative behind it. But Mike, if you want to
potentially the most successful thing I've ever done. Can't believe we didn't bring it up. But we all have a sidewalk. Well, that's not true. A lot of people have access to a sidewalk or a very public space, and I took a drawer out of a dresser and painted it brown, put a bunch of screws in it, and invited people to trade keychains. And I document it often. I go outside and I see what's there, and people leave trinkets, and I turn them into keychains, and I post about it online. And it's garnered millions upon millions of views, and people love it, and it's spreading. I have a Pokemon card swap outside of my studio, a sticker swap, a free little dog library where local tennis clubs will give me their retired tennis balls so dogs can take them. And then we have the keychain library. And it's not just me. It's a worldwide phenomenon of sidewalk joy. And people are making puzzle exchanges and toy exchanges and free little ducks. It's very cool and a very special thing. And to anyone who owns a business, a really amazing way to bring people to something you're trying really hard to work on. It's a really cool thing, and it's infinite. There was a line outside this morning. It's wild.
So are there multiple locations of the keychain
Currently,
library?
there is one. There were 2. I had one at my house, but that got, in classic Mike fashion, way too popular, so I moved it. So now it's just at my studio. But, people know about it, and people tell people about it, and people fly here from all over the world, and they're like, oh, I got to grab a keychain. I got to bring it to the exchange, and people do. It's very, very cool and costs $0.
So it is like the suburban little mini libraries, take a book, leave a book
exactly.
kind of thing, but for keychains. I love it. So people have a cool keychain and they just come and trade it.
Yep, exactly. And that kind of, again, that just kind of shows the way that Mike is able to connect with people and his audience, but also people are learning about him for the first time. Every time I'm with Mike, there's someone's like, oh, you're the A to Zoo guy, or you're the slow sound guy, or you're the keychain library guy. So Mike definitely has like 9 lives. But the keychain library, that's again something where we focus on community and access, and creating things that families can do on a very low budget and kind of meeting people where they are. It's very kind of true to our North Star, and something that I think no matter what we do in terms of Zooquarium, expanding our F&B offerings, bringing Mike's art to more places, community will be the center of it. And we see the keychain library, these exchanges, being another element of kind of what we can offer as we look to build those communities.
When Teddy and I started working together, he always said that I can Mikeify anything, and that's become my North Star. And we've seen it happen time and time again. And, that works for buildings, that works for book library, like free little libraries, that works for anything. We could create a kids theater. We could, reskin a ride at a theme park. We could do anything with cartoons. And I think that's the beauty of art. And I don't think art is used nearly enough in these endeavors. And, It really is inspiring, and I can't wait to see what we do next.
You were talking about scavenger hunts before, so just so I can envision it, say you partner with a shopping center, there's like artwork that you're going to spread throughout the center that the people are going to find via the scavenger hunt?
So the ones that we've done with Center Cal locally, those have just been pretty much window graphics. So working with all the different retailers within the shopping center where we would put, the one we did most recently was a springtime version. So there was different flowers and bugs were the theme of that one. So you would go around and there'd be a snail or a bee or a monstera plant, and that would be a window graphic on the actual retail frontage. And then another one that we're doing that's in development right now is with the old mill district out of Bend. And that's a larger property, but that kind of is incorporating both like large plywood cutouts. So we'll have like a 9-foot elk as part of that installation. And then like a 8-foot bear that's working with both painted plywood, printed MDO, and then asphalt art is another application. So people go around, they discover all the different animals. We do both a digital element with a QR code or a more analog version where people are just writing down either the retailer that they found the animal in front of, or there's a small sign that has a code number or word that they would use to kind of symbolize that they had found that animal. And then incorporating some educational elements into that in terms of learning about these animals as you're discovering them. Again, another way to test new markets, bring the Zooquarium and Mike Bennett Studios to life in a way that's a low lift, but really, again, looks to engage the community, give families a cost-free activity that they can do any time of the day. So yeah, we're excited to kind of do our first one in Bend with Old Mill, but at the same time looking to kind of use that as a way to test new markets and further kind of engage the community as we continue to grow.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. I can't wait to see what you get to micify next.
Me either.
Very cool. Before we go, one final fun question. So you're based out of Portland, which I haven't been to in a few years now. Portland always seemed to me like the kind of place where creativity just kind of emerges from organically. Is Portland the reason how this all came about? Would you say it could have happened in another city?
Portland has a really special way of adopting ideas and lifting them up. And I don't think that happens for every idea, but I really felt it. As someone who's from the East Coast, which I love, I do love the East Coast, there is a warmth here, especially around creativity. And the second I started giving back with my art, I felt the city embrace the whole concept. And, I think I'd be lying if I said I could do this without Portland. I think Portland is a really, really, really important part to my story. I just hope that they're okay if I spread my wings and venture over to Pittsburgh someday and try it there. I just think this city is so incredible, and it incubates ideas in ways that most cities can't.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this podcast, do me a favor, go into the app that you're listening to and give us a rating or a review. Maybe just write a sentence, something you liked about the show. I don't know, maybe something you didn't like about the show. You could subscribe to Where We Buy on the iPhone podcast app or on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on the web at wherewebuy.show. And if you've got a specific question about retail, shopping centers, or retail real estate, feel free to connect or message with me on LinkedIn. Just search for James Cook JLL. There's a million James Cooks, but only one that I know of anyway, JLL. So find me on LinkedIn. And our theme music is Run in the Night by the Good Lords under Creative Commons license. All right, that's a wrap.